Tatoi mai hwesha, mi pia Eklahaar. Bon javed fax mamai. Eklahaar is a silly conlang I made a little while ago just for fun. Here's a little tutorial on how it works. Starting with the IPA chart of Eklahaar. But this isn't the best method of learning the writing system due to a little complication we'll encounter, so to learn it, let's start by going through the Eklahaar alphabet and I'll show you some IPA for all of the letters' standard pronunciation. So, the alphabet is a little bit bigger from the English alphabet, but it's not too bad. So, we've got A, Ax, Be, Che, De, Ev, E, F, Ge, Ha, I, Je, Ka, L, M, N, O, Ovod, P, Q, R, S, T, Thorn, U, V, Chehiektu, X, Y, Zeta. Alright, there's a few more important pronunciation things here. First, let's tackle consonants. Most consonants have a lenited form similar to Irish. This is indicated by an H after the consonant. It changes the pronunciation and is used with prepositions, plurals, and compound words. Here's how the lenited forms sound. P becomes F, B becomes V or W, M also becomes V or W, T becomes Th, D becomes The, F, V, and H become silent, Th becomes H, The becomes La, Qu becomes Hua, X becomes Hua, S becomes H, Z becomes R, Ch becomes Hya, K becomes Ch, J becomes Ya, and G also becomes Ya. Next, I'll explain the vowels. So we have A, I, A, E, A, Ya, I, Ya. This one has a variety of different pronunciations, but it's usually pronounced yo, you, yi, o, oi, u, we, oo. Grammatically, Eklahaar is either SOV or SVO word order depending on how you're feeling today. Here's an example sentence. Ma ika jokon. Ma jokon ika. Okay, so what if you want to use a preposition? You simply put it in front of the noun and lenite the first consonant of the word if it can be lenited. Here's some useful prepositions. Ve or v. Fo. Uchi. Ni. Oko. One preposition stands out. Ve. Ve always changes to the clitic v whenever the following sound is a vowel or a semivowel. So, gat, foljat, viat. Next up, plurals. How do you pluralize in Eklahaar? Well, there are two methods. You either lenite the final consonant, or you add the suffix n if it cannot be lenited. There's one more thing I'll introduce because it's just so essential. The personal pronouns of Eklahaar. In Eklahaar, there are these personal pronouns. We have ma, mai, quas, quex, shon, xo, xin, xon. There's one property which should be mentioned, and that's spectral ve. Personal pronouns may be lenited with no preposition before them. This indicates the preposition ve before it, making it possessive, which disappeared over time. It's still fine to use ve, but spectral ve is far more common. Here's some uses of spectral ve. Gat va. Jokon ho. Mi huas. And before I go, I'm going to leave you with a few sentences in Eklahaar to see if you can figure out what they mean. Ma piagat. Ma jokon ika. Gat ho piani hyahin. Ma tho folyath. Ma ika karcha, ma takso ika karchan. Nias pia jokon, goth, queen, jemien. And that should get you started on Eklahaar. Let me know if you want to learn some more, and until next time, sichona!